Good afternoon, listeners. You are tuned into 4ZZZ on 102.1 FM, and this is Eco Radio, Australia's longest-running peace and environment radio show. Maybe, probably, definitely.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we've been claiming it for a while now, so...
peer-reviewed.
We haven't been challenged on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep it that way until then.
It's like King of the Hill kind of situation.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
If you're on top of the hill, you're the king.
We got dibs.
Yeah. We are taking over your middle of the day in the middle of your week airwaves, and we are currently like 2/3 of the way through
That's
the month.
crazy.
Yeah. Guys, guess what? It's like 40 days until the end of the year. 41.
40. Ew.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zack.
You're welcome. So my name is Zack, and my pronouns are he, they. I'm joined by my good friend Isabel.
Yeah, first name. Love that. Issy. She, they.
And I want to start off by paying my respects to the custodians of the country on which we broadcast. We are located in the city Magingin on Turrbal Yagga Urgapul land. I also want to acknowledge and pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening in today. Our radio waves reach Kavi Kavi and Jinambara country in the north, Waka Waka country in the west. In the east, we pay our respects to the Quandamooka people, and down south, we reach Commonberry, Nagaragwal, Mununjali, Wanjirabara, and Yugambeh countries. There is no Crown land.
Sick. So if you want to text in throughout this program, the text line is 0420 626 733. What have we got on today's program?
So first of all, we're going to be talking to EK Rose from the Food Connect Foundation about the South East Queensland Food Summit that happened at the end of July. Kind of just see where they're at, have some of the goals of the day the food summit, is like on the way to being achieved.
Yep.
And then we're also going to be talking about animals that change sex. You know, it was Transvisibility Week
last week, and I believe it ended yesterday.
Yeah.
But still really cool to have a little deep dive into those types of animals.
We're doing a bit of a rerun, a bit of an encore, because they deserve it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Nice. I'm very excited to talk to EK. If you've been a listener to Eco Radio for a long time, EK is a good friend of ours. And I think it's super relevant, especially coming into the busy period of Christmas, whatever else, where a lot of overconsumption occurs, or a lot of people are in a position of not being the most financially stable. So I think it's really good to talk about communities, initiatives that can definitely help out, and just be aware of what's going on in our community.
But on the line with me, I have EK Rose, who is one of the organisers of the Food Connect Foundation and is involved with the Food Connect shed that's located in Salisbury. How are you doing today, EK?
Really good. Zack, how are you?
Yeah, I kind of love the rainy weather. It's appeasing to me, at least, though I suspect it does get tiring for a lot of people once it's this continuous. But I wanted to talk to you about the South East Queensland Food Summit. So for those that don't know, the South East Queensland Food Summit was a 3-day event that aimed to improve the supply of local and ethical food within South East Queensland. And it consisted of 3 separate days. A People's Day, which was open to everyone and had local food vendors plus workshops. An Industry Day, which aimed to connect food stakeholders in South East Queensland. And a Policy Day, which was centred on lobbying for greater food security by 2032 with the Brisbane Olympics, which is still very surreal to actually say. But today we mainly want to focus on the latter of these the two latter days, I should say. But first off, I know the event was a few months ago, but just to start with, how was it as a whole? Did everything go smoothly, and was it, I don't know, good time enjoyed by everyone?
It was exhausting.
Yes.
But no, it was awesome. I think over the 3 days, we had like over 1,300 people come to the shed. 1,000 of those was People's Day. It surpassed all of my expectations. The 2 following days, Industry Day and Policy Day, I was really happy if we got 30 each to both of those days, but we ended up getting over 60 to the Industry Day and 150 people to the Indigenous Foodways night on that same day, on the industry day, and then on the policy day we had another 60-odd policy wonks in the room. So I was just blown away by the interest. So it's obviously something that people are thinking about. And, food systems is a bit hidden from view, and I think it's quite a complex space for policymakers. So it was really good to see that turn out.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then, as you just mentioned, it is like if people are taking a greater, like they're feeling a greater sense of importance with it. Could you maybe outline why it is important to increase local food production and supply?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realise how much we depend on fossil fuels in our food system. And by food system, I'm talking about not just the farming aspect of it, the growing of the food, but everything that happens post the farm gate. And a lot of work has been done to transition conventional farming to more regenerative methods, which is really good, and that's gaining its own momentum. But there's a massive problem in the middle. We call it the missing middle, where from the farm gate through to your plate, there is just so much going on that no one knows about, and it's very, very intensive in its fossil fuel use. So we want to have a look at that. We want to shine a light on what's going on there and look for ways where we can relocalise our food systems to reduce that dependence on fossil fuels as a whole, but also increase the nutrition of the food and reduce the ultra-processed foods that go into our diets and also improve our health and our well-being. So it's a big, complex issue, but it's something that really excites us, and we just used the Olympic Games as a bit of a hook to talk about it, really, and that's why I think we got so much interest in it.
Yeah, EK, I'm just going to kind of jump in and kind of focus on, you raised some really interesting themes about, our food diets, and especially as we're about to head into a year of, a period of time. I'm thinking Christmas, I'm thinking Black Friday, things of overconsumption. I was wondering, do you have any thoughts about how our listeners can be a little bit more conscious with not only the food that they consume, but I'm also thinking excessive Christmas lunches, breakfasts, etc. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Christmas obviously is culturally significant in our society, and a lot of us have family traditions that we like to observe on those days. And some of us don't even observe Christmas too, I should add. We live in a multicultural society where there are lots of different types of celebrations, and they should be respected. But I guess if you are going to celebrate Christmas, then have a look at, how you can source some of your ham, your big legs of ham or your turkeys from farmers that are actually doing the right thing in terms of their animal husbandry and the way that they're farming. So there's quite a number of really great ethical meat suppliers in our region, which you can tap into. And fruit and veg, fresh fruit and veg, and keeping your recipes focused on whole food, so trying not to bring in ultra-processed foods like chips and junk food is probably a good challenge, and a way to get around all the work on Christmas Day is probably just to give each family member a job to do and have a nice potluck lunch,
Yeah.
Make some fresh produce. And, you could get your fresh fruit and veggies. There's lots of really great local veggie box schemes around, or you can go to any of the farmers markets like Northey Street, City Farm on a Sunday, or there's a variety, Mount Gravatt markets. There's little pockets of markets where you can talk directly to the farmer and grab your fresh produce from them.
I love that.
I think going back to the missing middle, as you referred to it, in the food production pipeline, I remember for one of my fisheries courses in uni, like a good 6 years ago, but lots of fish that is like wild caught in Australia is then shipped to other countries to be like processed and battered, and like put batter on it and that sort of thing, and then shipped back to Australia, which seems like I feel like that highlights the excessive transportation that's involved with it, and this kind of like one of the areas that fossil fuel use in food production can really be reduced in.
Yeah, it's insane. It really is a form of insanity when you look at the food system and how global, trade agreements impact, the use of fossil fuel particularly in our logistics and transport. So, for example, in New Zealand, our trade agreement with New Zealand requires us to export the same amount of butter as we import from New Zealand. It just seems nuts.
Come on.
So it's like, dudes, you are just wasting so much fuel unnecessarily. Like, what the hell is going on here? So you can see how that these decisions are completely divorced from any understanding of climate change and the impacts on the food system. But there's also a lot of social inequities in that too, like there's a lot of exploitation that happens with food workers, not just on farm, but also in food processing. You see supermarket workers are getting exploited all the time. People have to take them to court for not paying them the right wages all the time. There's a lot of exploitation that goes on, not just the fossil fuel use. So it is a very complex area that does have a lot of environmental and social impacts, and it's just not looked at in any sort of systemic way by governments at the moment.
Most definitely.
And it's a system that doesn't need to be as complex as it is, which is one of the things that Industry Day was trying to, I guess, fight back against. So it aimed to promote and assist local businesses in buying from local producers. Was it kind of like successful in facilitating this discussion or like these connections?
Yeah, I think the aim for Industry Day was really, we held it on the Monday, which is traditionally Hospo Day. It was just an afternoon, so we didn't steal their whole day off. The idea was, that there are so many people doing awesome things in our region when it comes to not just growing food, but processing food and also serving food in restaurants and venues. But none of us get the time to talk to each other and to really look at the issue as a whole together in one group. So Industry Day was just awesome. We had a couple of guest speakers, and then we just had some working sessions around tables. And, we had farmers standing next to chefs, standing next to wholesalers, and it was just a really great way to break down a lot of those traditional barriers between all those parts of the system. So they were able to really come through with some fantastic recommendations, which you can read in the report. And a lot of those things revealed that, relationships are central to creating a really successful regional food system, and the more that we can convene and collaborate together, the more we'll kick those goals in terms of creating climate resilience and equity in the food system for workers. So it was just a really good start. It was one conversation at the very beginning of the work that we're going to be doing over the next few years, but it was really promising. And one of the fantastic things that came out of that was a real highlight on First Nations bush foods and botanicals, and how we can support those businesses that are emerging in that space, and really using, the power of food, and hospitality to really showcase the incredible talent that lies behind those businesses.
I then want to touch upon Policy Day. And now Policy Day, it was a discussion with policymakers on aiming to increase local supply, the local food supply in southeast Queensland by up to 30% by 2032. Kind of like, were conversations productive and have tangible steps been implemented to achieve this goal?
So again, similar to Industry Day, this is the first time that Department of Primary Industries people were in the same room as the Department of Health and Department of Education and universities and CSIRO and, industry kind of peak bodies. So it was a really productive day. We had the whole day. It was from 9 till 3. We had a few guest speakers and some lightning talks. And the priority, the challenges that came out of that was an acknowledgement that farmers are under-resourced to undertake the changes that are required to transition to more sustainable types of farming, that Indigenous businesses are underserved. They've got a lack of access to their traditional lands for a start, and there are also real problems with the intellectual property around their specific foods, whereas in terms of the benefits not going back to communities, and it's being sort of, grabbed by corporations and big food companies. We also found that industry itself lacks a lot of resources and coordination, and that procurement policies that governments are responsible for don't really align with sustainability goals at the moment. So you've got a health system, hospitals that are sourcing their food from big multinational ultra-processed food companies rather than looking at what fresh fruit and veg they could be getting from local suppliers. So we really looked at that, and one of the things that came out of that was to develop a lot of things that we need data. So at the moment, the target, the sort of nominal target that we put forward was 30% by 2032 regional sourcing, but we don't even know what the baseline is at the moment. So we have no idea right now how much food we consume that is regionally or locally sourced here in southeast Queensland. No one knows what that number is. So we need to get to that number first. So the idea for our next step is to start a regional coordination body to develop up sort of like what we're calling a purposeful food procurement system. Because if we can tap into public money to create public good, then that makes a lot of sense in terms of being able to support the regional economy and all the food industry that's within that. So we'll be kicking that off on the 29th of November.
Wow.
With the first meeting. So we're kicking that off. We've got about 25 people that have RSVP'd out of that summit. And we'll just start with the conversation first, but we're totally unfunded at the moment, so we're looking for philanthropy to help us out, or a government department to maybe fund part of the work. But we really want to make this sort of like a collective approach to solving this issue and creating a resilient food system long term for our region.
Wow, you took the kind of next question out of my mouth, which was what can we look for at Food Connection? That is incredible. Is there any way that us as the public or our listeners can kind of help in maybe not the creation, but in helping with funding or anything like that for this really exciting period for Food Connect Shed?
Yeah, well, I mean, Food Connect Shed is an event space, so if you ever want to hold an event there, you're very welcome to hold a party there or have a community meeting. We do lots of that sort of stuff. But that aside, we do have a program of events coming up next year called Deconstructing Dinner, and we'll be inviting people to come and have dinner with us where we'll have experts talking about a specific part of the food system so they can join in that way. Anyone can donate to the Food Connect Foundation. You just have to go to fcf.org.au and give us a donation. Just keep in touch with us on socials and, add your name to our e-news, and we'll keep you up to date on everything that we're doing in this space,
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, EK. And I dare say we'll have another chat soon about the regional food working group meeting. That's in 9 days, so we'd be keen to have you on again at some point in the future.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks, Zack and Issy. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you very much for that. Have a lovely rest of the day.
You're listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future.
You are listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future. Thank you, small child. Whoa,
you're
twinsies.
welcome. I put the mic on for you.
No, that didn't happen.
No, not at all. Anyway, what did we just listen to, Zack?
We just listened to Little House by Crawfishes, and then we listened
Crawfishes?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's what it says.
No, that's okay.
That's the name of the band.
Okay, sorry.
Are you trying to question the their artistry.
No, it was a really cool name. I didn't
Okay.
mean to judge.
Yeah.
But we spoke to EK earlier.
And then we listened to a small child.
Yes.
Yeah, for very 4 seconds. Yeah, this is Eco Radio on 4ZZZ.
If you couldn't
102.1 FM. And if you couldn't tell as well, we are a community radio station. We all do this for fun. Izzy and I have a guaranteed hangout sesh for an hour a week.
We do, and we just talk sometimes.
We just talk sometimes.
Yeah, if you want to support Eco Radio and 4ZZZ as a whole, 4ZZZ.org.au/support. Different tiers for different folks. If you're looking for a easy Christmas present, or don't want to engage in Black Friday sales, then Diva, head over to 4ZZZ.org.au/support. Get yourself some nice merch. Get yourself a subscription. They last a year.
You can subscribe for as little as $25 for a pet or
up
a child.
to $500 if you want your name down below, written on our wall.
I'll give you a personal forehead kiss too if you did that.
Will you?
Yeah.
Okay, but most importantly...
That's a threat. That's not necessarily a promise, but that's a threat.
That is a threat. Most importantly, you'll get that warm inner glow from supporting community, by community, with community, for community, within the community. Community coming out of our ears.
Community out the wazoo.
Yeah, so speaking of community, for the last week or so, it was Trans Awareness Week. Now, of course, we should be aware of trans people
All the time.
But I think this week we wanted to put a certain emphasis on animals as well. Because I would want to say not transitioning behaviours, but it is observed a lot in the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
That sometimes animals may change their gender or their sex in order to... Well, you can talk about it, Zach, a little bit. Adapt.
In order to just be better. So the scientific name for this is sequential hermaphroditism.
Ooh.
And so an organism that once produces eggs switches to producing sperm, or vice versa. And these organisms have the potential to do so, but they do not necessarily do all the time, depending on the species. To start off with, I want to start with like where we get the name hermaphroditism from. And who doesn't love a bit of Greek mythology?
Oh, cool.
So there was a Greek god called Hermaphroditus, who surprisingly is the child of Hermes and Aphrodite.
Oh, wow.
So they really just smushed those together. But this was an exceptionally beautiful dude, very, very handsome. And some female nymphs prayed to unite with him forever, and their prayers were answered. And then he got became a hermaphrodite. It got the genitalia of a man and a woman.
Interesting.
Yeah. So sequential hermaphroditism takes 3 forms. You either have protogeny, the female to male, or you have protandry, male to female, and then you get serial bidirectional, which means it can switch to either.
Interesting.
And then you get 2 subsections within this. These are monandric and diandric. So for monandric, some organisms or some species, they are all born as the same sex. So if you see a baby, I think a clownfish, they're all male. And then you get some which are diandric, which is where you get a split, you get that more even distribution of like sexes when they're born, and then some can still switch over. And these are pretty coolly all shown in like reef fish species. There's lots of sequential hermaphroditism within reef fishes. So to begin with, protogeny, which is the female to male switch. This is seen in sea basses, parrotfishes, wrasses, some frog species such as the reed frog and European grass frog, and some isopods. And this kind of like system is regularly seen in reef fish that have haremic kind of social relations, which means it's like the one dominant male controls the breeding. Think of like gorillas or like roosters. Yeah,
I was wondering what that meant. Yeah.
And so a good example of this is the Queensland grouper, which is a species of large reef fish that we actually have here in southeast Queensland. Some of them can get very big, like 400 kilos, which is crazy. There was an episode of River Monsters. Shout outs to Jeremy Wade. He caught a 110 kilo one in the Brisbane River.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so these this species is diandric, and they have that dominant male controlling a group of female. But when a female is essentially large enough to be able to control a group of females, it may switch to being male. And we're gonna dive into why that may be the case a bit later, but it has to do with like reproductive output. Essentially, just like a male that controls a large group, like that has more reproductive output because it fertilizes a lot of eggs, whereas if you're a small female, you only have one set.
Oh, that makes okay.
So you're able to pass on like more genes to the next lineage, father more children. Then we also have protandry, which is when we go from male to female. It's seen in flathead, clownfish, ribbon eels, which are close to moray eels, brittle stars, starfish, and some species of crustacean. And so we're going to use like the clownfish for a very classic example, and this will change your perspective of Finding Nemo as a whole.
I was waiting for that, yes.
So the clownfish is monandric. They're all born male. And they have very, very structured groups in anemones. So the most dominant fish is female, and this is always, and it's determined by size, aggression, and territory occupation within these sea anemones. And then you have one dominant sexually reproductive male. And then all other kind of like fish below in the dominance ranking are all males that are non-reproductively active, little cuck boys. So then we
Thanks, Zack.
So the submissive fish grow smaller than dominant fish, which suggests there's some level of growth suppression. And then there's also reproduction repression too by these more dominant fishes. But what happens if you remove the female from this the structured group, this social hierarchy, the dominant male then puts on more weight and becomes a female. And then the next in the male hierarchy becomes reproductively active.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the big dog changes sex and then his little underling.
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know how to describe it, like a conveyor belt almost of just kind of a rotating order.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying not to think about the implications of Finding Nemo with that one.
Yeah, so so this means like marlins. I believe the dad Nemo's name was Marlin, right?
Yes.
Yeah. His wife got murked. So he would switch into a female, and then little Nemo Jr.
Ah, yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But
they would be canoodling. Then we also have serial bidirectional in terms of sex changes. It's seen in some gobies, such as the oyster, Ostrea edulis as well. It's pretty well studied in there. But there was a scientific paper I was reading that was titled "The Bidirectional Sex Changes in a Coral-Dwelling Goby." So there are these gobies that live on coral colonies, and then the community or like the social structure of these gobies is that it's either a single juvenile or you get a heterosexual adult pair. And these gobies all start out as females, meaning they're monandric, and then some transition into males later in life. But when two females are placed on the same coral colony, one changes back to male, one changes to being male. But then if you were to put two males on a coral colony, one reverts back to being female.
Oh.
Which is, yeah, it's cool because that male would have been female and then it's turned back to being a female again. It can go both ways.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, really nifty there. And now you may be like wondering, why would a species want to switch sexes? And so there's two main hypotheses. Two main hypotheses surrounding this. One is the size advantage model. And as I was talking about earlier, that just means that a certain size or age reproduces better as a specific sex. So within the context of the Queensland groper, the male can fertilise multiple batches of female eggs, whereas a small female can only be fertilised like one at a time. So a large male reproduces more offspring than a small female. So if a female becomes large enough to be able to control a group of small females, it makes sense to switch to being male as it is able to reproduce more offspring. And that's all they want to Like, that's what most
it's a
species
numbers
want to do.
game as opposed.
And that's what most species want to do at the end of the day. It's just about making sure that they pass on their seed as much as possible. And then in the context of a clownfish, since there's only one breeding pair in a group, it is more beneficial for a female to be larger, as the male can only fertilize that one group of females, that one female within the group. But the female, the more eggs she reproduces, the more offspring she produces. And that's best for her if she's larger. Yeah, because when you're larger, you're likely to be able to produce more eggs, and that's best for them. And so the males don't need to be large either, as they only need one batch of they only have one batch of eggs to fertilize. There's not like that same level with the group where they're controlling a whole group and fending off mates and everything. And then the other hypothesis that it's a protection against inbreeding, and this mainly works in monandric species. So species that are sparsely populated or don't move much have like a high chance of encountering its siblings. So if they're all the same sex at the same time, they can't breed with one another.
Interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Or like a protective measure. Yeah, wow.
This is kind of like my inkling as well. There's a lot of like undiscovered, like there'd be lots of sex changes in species that haven't been found before, just because we don't have the time or the money to investigate all of them. So there's the potential for like a whole more bunch of species to be changing sexes than the ones that I listed out, and potentially even there's even more, I guess, reasons for switching sexes than...
Yeah, so this is just kind of a starting point within regards to a body of research.
It's very much scratching the surface, but it's a very, very interesting, area of research.
Wow, thank you for compiling that list, Zack. That was really, really interesting.
Oh, you're welcome, Issy.
Anytime.
It's a Bushcare Roundup. They've been pulling out weeds.
Well, did we?
And then they put in
I timed it perfectly.
Okay, sorry.
It's the Bushcare Roundup.
Sorry, I thought we would come back and then do that, but whatever. It's time for the Bushcare Roundup.
It is time for the Bushcare Roundup. We just heard from Iris with their song Misty Day, and then Flash Flood by City Piss. I've got too many haters out here. They're even in the room with me.
They're even in the studio. I just keep you humble, Zack.
Yeah, that's true. I appreciate it. I do need to be reined in from time to time. But on Saturday, the 23rd, we have from 8 till 10, we have the N4C Bushcare site tours. That is at Tarragindi Conservation Park in Solna Street, Tarragindi, from 8 till 10 a.m. as well. We have a working bee at 31 Nathan Avenue, Ashgrove. From 9 till 10, we have the Mount Crosby Community Food Swap and Seed Exchange, and that one is 29 Banksia Drive, Mount Crosby. From 9 till 11 a.m, we have the final working bee of 2024 at Chermside Hills Reserve in Chermside West. From 10 till 12, we have a Beaudesert Landcare cane-toed tadpole trapping workshop, and that is at Biddaddaba. I just dab for everyone because that's what I'll be doing. I'll be Biddaddaba. But yeah, that one is held in conjunction with Water Gum, and there's a few of their cane-toed.
They're called cane-toed tadpole trapping.
Yeah,
which I think we've spoken about.
Yeah, so check that one out if you're interested. And then from 2 till 5, we have the November working bee at 114 Nicholas Street, Greenslopes.
Sick. On Sunday at 8 a.m, there is the November working bee at Threadbow Place Park in Belmont. At 9 a.m, there's the Bushcare working bee at 35 Taringa Parade at Indooroopilly. Our cover Monday the 25th at 8 a.m, it is the Wildlife Queensland Fauna Watch walk at Kathleen MacArthur Regional Park in Watula.
I'm not sure.
And on Tuesday the 26th at 7, we've got the bird watching walk at Boondall Wetlands Environment Centre in Boondall. Finally, 9 a.m, Point Cartwright Big Butterfly Count at Point Cartwright Reserve at Headland? Yeah. All this info, if you've missed it, will be in our show notes and on our socials as well. So if you are looking to get out there, get a bit dirty, get a bit wet in the rain, so hopefully it's a dry weekend for all you for going out.
It'll be timed quite well, I imagine, just because the ground's going to be nice and moist. It's going to be easy to pull out some of those damn weeds
Yeah.
that are around.
And now, Zach, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
For all of our friends who like, whether you call it herbing, whether you call it snaking, whether
Yeah.
you call it flashlighting or torching, do you think it is a good time to go out herping at the moment?
I think especially with the frogs around,
Yep.
like for the frogs, maybe not so much the reptiles at the moment, just because it's been quite cool. I did go not the Friday that just happened, but the Friday the week before. Didn't find too much, unfortunately. We found a thing called a pink tongue skink that bit me.
Delightful.
Yeah. They kind of hurt as well. They've got like snail crushing jaws. They mainly like eat
Oh
snails.
yes, I
up
remember
there.
you telling me this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's quite a big one as well.
But yeah.
And then I also found a Burton's legless lizard, which we've talked about on the show before, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this is your herping weather report
Yeah.
with Zack and Issy.
Usually I go when it's above like 30 degrees, just because, I don't know, there's like not a risk versus reward sort of thing, but there's like some extent where you want to like maximize reward with it and
Yep.
not go out and drive around
wanna
and
time
drive like 200 Ks and not find anything, because that's always hurtful.
So what do you find is the ideal
I'm
herping? I'm just going to take us so off topic right now, but what's your, like, do you have certain parameters that need to be met in order for it to be like a good juicy find?
I just say it's like above 30 degrees, otherwise
Okay.
I'm going to want to go out all the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's like the cutoff point that I've assigned to it. I did go, I live about 10 minutes from Tui Forest, a 10-minute walk, I should say, and I went for a walk around there a couple weeks ago. I found there was a goanna just walking around during the day, which is cool. There's a thing called a major skink, a big fat skink. They're pretty cool too. And there was also the reddest bearded dragon I'd ever seen. Like, yeah, it was like very much like approaching like a red bearded
Wow.
dragon, and it threw me for a loop for a bit, and I was like, what?
So
what is that?
What we're trying to tell you is get out there,
Yeah, we'll look for things.
look around.
Even though it's not Frog ID week anymore, you can still head out there and look at some frogs, because frogs are cool.
Yeah, especially in this weather. Are you kidding? Anyway.
Yeah, I was walking to work on Saturday night, and this was in the valley, and I heard this frog like croaking in a drain.
Oh, yeah?
And I was like, "You poor dude, there's gonna be like so many people along here." But I whipped out the Frog ID app.
Did
and
you?
Then I sent it through, and like, it would have been like 10 minutes to 11 on a Saturday night.
Nice.
Yeah,
It was just a frog trying to get out into the valley, man.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Well, I think this is all for Eco Radio this week. Did you have anything else to say, Zach?
I kind of wanted to fill in the time a bit more, just so we can pass it over to Jordan in a
Sonic Alien.
With Sonic
Hell
Alien. Yeah, that's what we need to add. They're going to be
That's what we
talking
need.
to First Beige. Yeah, stay tuned for that. They'll be taking care of you from 1 till 3 p.m. They always guarantee they play some groovy tunes.
Some absolute bangers. And hey, if you enjoyed our show, and if you can't make it to Jordan's show as well, don't forget you can listen on demand
Yeah.
at any time on the 4ZZ.org.au website. I strongly recommend listening to Sonic Alien last week when they had King Stingray on. But if you want to replay any of Eco Radio's best bits as well, jump on there.
We also have a podcast version now, which
Yes, we
gets
do.
uploaded every Thursday.
So special thanks to Toby, who also does the No Idea podcast as well. So if you don't want to listen to our music taste, or just don't like the music, then we have a solution for you.
Yeah, and that'll be it for Eco Radio this week.
I think we've covered all our bases.
Yeah.
Jump on the socials if you missed anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, see you same time next week.
Yeah.
Don't forget your umbrella.
And we're going to be taking you out with, I'm going to swear here, Kind of Fucked by Serendipity. It is a new song that I believe they just released today.
Nice. Language
yeah.
warning, I think.
Yeah, I've got the language warning in effect. But yeah, please enjoy that one. I'm sure they will enjoy all the support with that.